You aren't scheduled to start until
I think it might be sharing. Let me
it's
just check.
live.
All right, so
All right. Well, hello everyone. I am the Ancient Ninja. I haven't been on here for a while, but I'm excited to talk to my buddy Toby about some really cool stuff. So I will let him introduce himself. Introduced. It's late here. It's almost like 11 here. So introduce himself, if you will.
Okay, yeah. My name's Toby. I go by General Shinobi because I've always called myself Toby Shinobi, and I thought General Shinobi would be a good name for a podcast because I just have a general understanding of lots of different things. Like I don't hone in on one subject. I just try to find the essence of everything. And then that's how I've found what I believe to be the truth. Sort of like I think of it as a plasma, like the space in between things that's where I go. I don't really hone in on one specific thing. I just find out what is the truth, the thing that ties all the things together, so to speak. And I've really found that language, like learning about words, splitting words, and understanding symbols has really helped to have a solid framework, like a frame of reference or an anchor to know what's true. Because I can hear something that I feel is true and then hear something I feel is not true, but I'll just ping off it. Even if it's not true, it's fine. It will ping you somewhere else and you can take something from it, which, you know, you can always learn. Even when people are lying, you can learn something from them about their perspective and their perception. So, yeah, I'm from the UK as well, if couldn't tell.
Oh no, definitely couldn't tell. No. Well, okay.
Cheerio,
Thanks
mate.
for that introduction. If anyone's watched my channel or anyone that's watching this, which no one probably is right now, but anyone that does watch it in the future, I have talked to him before, so we're just gonna get into like a couple different topics. And I guess I'll just kind of start with the agenda that I have, if you're cool with that.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the concept of fallen angels. I know that I have a little video I did on my Instagram about this. Before we get into it, I want to hear you and what you have to say about it. I know we pretty much agree on many topics, but I want people to understand your mind. So go into your thought about fallen angels.
So I don't know too much about fallen angels. I do know that most people mistakenly think that Lucifer is Satan, and I view them as two complete polar opposites. I view Lucifer as the bringer of light. You can split the word, and Lucifer, Lu is light and cipher is codes. So Lucifer is just light codes. Lucifer is associated with Venus, the morning star and the evening star. Venus is associated with the Akashic records, which is where the light codes are stored, which is in our DNA and in the stars above, both connected. They don't want us going inwards into our light. Our DNA is light in water, and that's where the Akashic records are. That's where our dormant or junk DNA lies. So they've demonized Lucifer, which is more of a feminine archetype. It's always seen as a man or whatever. But I view the bringer of light as water, as intuition, as this dark energy, as magic. And the opposite side of that, so basically Lucifer is nature, it's our inherent nature. I think Pan was crossed over with Lucifer or the devil as well, obviously Pan being the god of nature and fresh water and music. So Satan would be the opposite, the twin, okay, the yin and the yang. So Satan would be the sort of destroyer of nature. He would be the deceiver. Lucifer is a trickster. Satan is a deceiver. Two opposites. The trickster is important because it invokes something inside us. The deceiver is this kind of blinding white light which tricks us, like kind of AI is more of a satanic essence. People who are using AI like Sam Altman and Peter Thiel and stuff, they have the essence of Ahriman or Satan in them. So that's sort of my
Okay.
I don't know the biblical stories, so to speak, but that's my limited understanding.
Yes. So, and I want to get into more of the Lucifer Satan dynamic in a bit because I know that's like one of the topics that you did want to talk about with the video that you sent me. But so the idea of fallen angels, right? There's like a couple different concepts, but it mainly comes from the book of Enoch, which Enochian ancient texts. I mean, there's a whole following of the book of Enoch who people really don't know that it's split into 5 different books. And most of them can't be verified because people don't know how they've been written, how they've who wrote them. So, but the concept of fallen angels is in the first book of Enoch, which is the only really verified version of the book of Enoch, which is in the Ethiopian Bible, and that's the Watchers. So I have a theory about the Watchers. I believe the Watchers actually can be equated to the Titan gods that we see in Greek mythology. That's a whole other like kind of off-brand, but so that's where the idea of fallen angels come from, and that's what most people know it as. And I mean, many people haven't even understand or, dove into the idea of that. And then there's, of course, the idea of fallen divine beings and like the Vedas and things like that. But then when you look into things like the book of John, which is why I did post that video saying fallen angels are it's a farce, which you agreed with. I mean, you messaged me and I forgot exactly what you said, but so in the book of John, if you read that, which that's considered Gnostic text, it's still only considered that because it hasn't been verified, obviously, that it was written or things like this, but it states how the divine was copied. So if by that definition it means that the idea of fallen angels is that it's a copied being, that isn't actually an angel, because I think that the idea of a fallen angel is it's not hypocritical, what's the word, contradictory of the idea of the angelic realm and things that exist within that. So but yeah, so the only concept that people know of as fallen angels is in the book of Enoch, which we could go into and talk about the validity of it and things like that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's called the Secret Book of John, right? It's
Yeah,
like
or the apocrypha, yeah, of John.
apocrypha,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's kind of like a hidden book that was removed from the Bible, like the Book of Enoch. I've always thought like the Babel, the Tower of Babel, and Bible, like there's something there, like the Tower of Babel being built to connect to God, and the Bible, a book written that's supposed to connect us to God, but obviously stuff was removed, like information was removed. So I think maybe there might be a similarity there of those two things. But yeah, I've thought that recently that the Anunnaki were the Watchers. So
Really? I
yeah,
want to hear. I want to know. Okay, so
yeah. So they're the what?
you think that could be, well, because that is a possibility. Like that's definitely not a dumbfound theory in the way that things work. But okay, I want to hear. So to conclude about the concept of fallen angels, it I think we're both on the same page of it's the term fallen angel that it is understood as, is a way to insult the divine. Um, I think we can both agree on that. So, okay, I want to move to what
Yeah.
you think about
Well,
the Anunnaki.
let me just say there quickly that with fallen angels, we're told that Lucifer went against God, witch god, not source. It was this false god, clearly. Lucifer went against him. Lucifer was the scapegoat, cast out of heaven or people's minds, the same way that Pan in nature was cast out of people's minds, the same way that Prometheus stole fire from the gods, gave it to humans, and he was punished for it. There's this scapegoat archetype, which is this Lucifer, a fallen angel. And I think that we're tricked as kids to subconsciously not question authority, because otherwise we'll be like Lucifer, Satan, the devil. Whereas we should always question authority. We should always ask why, and that's how we get wise. But there is a war for our wisdom and our intuition. They just want us seeking knowledge from outwards, from this AI, from the Bible, something outside of ourselves. Whereas if we
or even not at all, just to be plugged into the materialistic world of everything.
Exactly. So I think that Lucifer is a scapegoat, and with the Anunnaki, I think that they were the Watchers. Perhaps like our DNA was altered genetically, and there was a war between them, like a war between Enlil and Enki. Like Enki liked his creation, and Enlil hated us. So Enki would have been like the god of wisdom and knowledge and science and stuff, and the earth used to be called Ki, or Ea, which is another name for Enki. And I think that they had children with the humans that were here already, and these were the Nephilim giants. And if you look at all the old world buildings pre-mud flood, they have huge doors. It's like they were built by giants. And these buildings, this architecture, possibly called Tartaria, but I think Tartaria was a place. It wasn't this worldwide civilization. Perhaps there's a crossover with Atlantis. Perhaps this was Atlantis. And that we were in coherence with the earth, with nature. That's why we built these buildings with, they built these buildings with granite blocks, they took power from the ether as well. I don't think that these buildings were built by savages. I don't think these giants were savages, and I think that's another trick. And these giants were wiped out by Enlil, who would be the god of the First Testament, because we were making too much noise. And I think that noise is because we were becoming too conscious, so it had to suppress us. And that's what I think about that.
So the reason that there's a good reason to connect the Anunnaki to biblical text and things like this, like you're saying, is because in Sumerian text, the Anunnaki, we can look at Aztec times, for example, which is Sumerian text. The Anunnaki is very similar to the Old Testament God or gods, which is sacrificial, demanding obedience, the very similar thing. So it could be that the Old Testament God, the Judaic God, is the same as the Sumerian God, which I know I'm sure has been speculated. I mean, I don't know anyone that has talked about it, but I'm sure people have connected those two because they are so similar. And also the art, the things that are depicted of them in drawings are also similar as well. So yeah, there's definitely a way to connect Anunnaki, Sumerians to Judaic text, and that it would be feasible, exactly what you said. So,
and it says in the Bible, I believe, we created man in our image. It always says our, like plural, like multiple. It was Marduk, who would have been Enki's son, who has more of the same essence of Enlil. I think he basically took this energy of Enlil, because Marduk would be Amun Ra, I believe. He's the one in the Bible that said, worship me before all others. It's something to do with Marduk, and I think it ties in with the story of Tiamat being slain. Tiamat was this plasma energy. Tiamat's known as this demonic dragon, because this feminine watery energy has always been demonized. You've got Pan, Eve, like all everything feminine has been demonized, because feminine is the water, is the magic, because the intuition. They don't want us looking into that. So Tiamat would have been the salt waters, which is more of the plasma or ionized gas or water, and Apsu, her partner, would have been the fresh water. And when they mingled, they created the earth and stuff like that. But anyway, Marduk killed or slay Tiamat, this water dragon. And it's just interesting that Elon Musk is now saying he wants to go to Mars. He wants to bring the energy of Marduk here. And they're kind of using AI as a sort of a vessel for that, which we can get to a bit later. But this is all connected. Like we're living myths now. Myths aren't stories which are untrue or didn't happen. They're archetypes which are being played out now.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that kind of leads me into the next topic, which is the difference between Judaic and Christian text. So, I find that like when I'm talking about this with people, they don't understand the difference of them, and they tie them both together. And I think through deciphering most of, let's say, like King James, there's a clear difference in Judaic and Christian texts. And like when you read the Talmud, for example, I recently have been reading the Talmud. I've not read all of it, but I've been going through it. They talk about Enoch. Enoch is a huge element of Judaic culture because Enoch is included in the Ethiopian Bible because Ethiopians are Jews. The ones that practice the Book of Enoch and read it are Jewish. So it's a Judaic practice because it's an ancient Judaic text that, barely is traceable. But so there's a clear difference in that. And obviously, Christianity, there's a lot to say about that. I mean, I won't completely roast it, but what's your thoughts on kind of how people can understand the difference between those and why it is so essential to understand what's Christian, which is the New Testament? There's only a few, chapters within the New Testament that you can consider Christian, but it's not the same as also including the Torah. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I haven't really read much of the Bible or the Torah or the Talmud, so probably not. I can only give like my opinion and what I've heard of other people talking about it. The Talmud, I've heard it's pretty satanic. It mentions children having intercourse with adults. I don't think I need to know much more than that. That's why I haven't read it. I don't want to.
Well, so does the Quran.
Yeah.
And essentially, I mean, so the Talmud's a vocal. It's not a vocal, but it's like it's not biblical. It's like this summary of a council of Jews basically talking about biblical text. But yeah, I mean, it was very common in that time, even in much culture like Greek culture, for that to be a thing, which is disgusting. But
yeah, well, I think that I have my opinions on Christianity because I believe that all of the religions have been corrupted, of course, over time, but at their core, I think they're good. I mean, Christians today, like, what makes you a Christian? Like, people wear crosses on their necks, like the Cathars who were slaughtered by the Catholic Church because they didn't want people to wear the cross. Because for me personally, the cross symbolizes death. The Celtic cross symbolizes life, but you don't see people wearing the Celtic cross. So the Celtic cross has basically, it's a cross with a circle around it. It represents infinite life, much like the Ankh in Egypt, which is a cross with a circle on top, which is what Christ is. Christ is a consciousness which can't die. It can change. And that's why when Christ died on the cross, it's about consciousness changing on the crossroads. And we're at a crossroads right now. And consciousness is going to be changing. There was a guy called Yeshua who overthrew the banks, who healed people via Reiki and stuff, who went to mystery schools and learned about like who we are and our potential and stuff. But a lot of Christians think that Reiki is and magic is evil. It's like, dude, this guy walked on water apparently, and he did all this other stuff. Like maybe it's metaphorical and stuff, but why if you're a Christian, why aren't you behaving like Jesus? Why aren't you trying to overthrow the banks? Why aren't you healing people? Why aren't
Well,
you?
Christian by the very definition is contradictory, because it's, you know, it's, there's not supposed to be a religion after Christ, but like you said, Christ is a consciousness. I mean, I don't like to call it Christ consciousness because that's such like a, now it's been twisted and called a new age term, but it's like a pattern. It's a way of being, and there's different elements. Like, you know, I've been reading the Pistis Sophia, which is a bit of Gnostic literature. And it just, even before my thoughts on it, or, you know, you kind of said the word when you were messaging egregore, of the element of some things that we think about, we create. So there's different versions, I think, of Christ that have just been uh, put into fruition out of everyone's constant understanding and interpretation of it. But so I think there's a lot of elements of it, but it's definitely a pattern that, you know, it, out of every ancient text, Christ is concurrent, and Christ is in every culture. Everyone recognizes Christ. So, you know, there's a lot to be said with that, which is why I think, to wrap it around, to the Talmud and Judaic texts, it is so different because Jews, not all Jews, right? So if you're a Jew watching this, don't come for me if you believe in Christ. But there are Jews that, a sect that don't believe in Christ, and the idea of Christ kind of irritates them, and, you know, the idea that man can be God and all of that. So that's why there's a clear difference when you're including the Old Testament, which is the Torah, which is essentially Jewish text, in the New Testament. So, you know, it doesn't really make sense to put the two together.
Yeah, it is no hate to Jews at all, because there are a few of them which are fine, but it's just interesting. I think also perhaps the Jews have become a kind of scapegoat. So what I mean by
Oh,
that is,
definitely.
yeah,
That's a very fine point. Because it's
yeah,
easier just to say that, and instead of understanding the concept of what really is happening, which I think is a lot for people to think about. I mean, for people like me and you, it's something that we constantly think about. But for a lot of people, that concept within itself is so it's easier to say, oh, it's the Jews. And I mean, when you
well,
trace it back, you know, but.
well, yeah, I think that the term scapegoat came from Jews. They used to put like this energy
Yeah.
on go. I don't know the whole mechanics of it, but they used to basically put something onto a goat and then either sacrifice it or, you know, move it away, kind of thing. So the terminology scapegoat um, comes from
Wow.
Jews. But what I mean by them being a scapegoat is that 90% of 90% of the problems in the world are by people who call themselves Jews. Now, I don't think they are Jews. There's religions
Oh,
which,
it's the fake Jews. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So they've been used
mhm.
as scapegoats. So you
Yeah.
have like everyone I look into, I'm like, well, how are they a Jew?
So
Or their
it's the
spouse.
Kabbalistic or the Talmud Jews, which is why I suggest, you know, not reading, but maybe just browsing it. But it's the Kabbalistic versus the Talmud. So Kabbalistic is more, gets into Egyptian ancient text, and it's also, you know, goes into the concept of Christ. But Talmud Jews do not go into that. So there is two different, but in reality, what they have become is that. I mean, it's just what it has become. There's no other name for them, unless you want to say, like, and you want to call them the Illuminati, you know. But that's not what it is, because it's like that's a whole different thing. So I think it's maybe like, at this point, it is an ethnicity, and it's like a type of person. Um, Yeah. Okay, but before my video gets taken down, because my FBI agent is watching this, like, she just had to go into this. She just had to go into it. Okay, let's go on to the next topic, which I'm gonna circle back to the one that I want to talk about, but
Well,
let's
before
talk
we
about the what?
before we move on, I just need to mention, because I didn't finish, that everyone
Oh,
who's
yeah, go
the
ahead.
people who are building this infrastructure for this Aromanic force, they call themselves Jews, but they're not actually Jews. So I can understand and see why people are like, oh, it's the Jews and stuff, where it's not. They have a
Mhm.
religion. They have other gods which most people don't know about, that they are invoking. And NASA do this with their space launches. Like in April of 2024, they launched three on the eclipse. They launched 3 rockets called APEP. APEP was the Egyptian god of chaos, the snake god. So, and they write on their rockets as well in Latin, and they said it's for their sponsors. So there are gods,
Mm.
guardians of dimensions. There's many. Hecate is one. She's the guardian of crossroads, magic, the moon. She was demonized, much like all the feminine archetypes. Like I keep banging on about, but it's important that we connect to this magic, because that's the magnetism, how we bring things into this realm. And the powers that be, called the Illuminati or whatever, just illuminated ones, which we should all be, activate this. And I think that there are multiple gods, there's multiple dimensions, one of which is time, the 4th dimension, that's Saturn. Saturn's got a bad rap, and there's actually 2 poles, which maybe we can get into later, because there's
Yeah,
always
yeah. I want you to like, because you're dropping some knowledge, and I don't think people are ready to.
let's move on then.
No,
We
no,
can
don't move on. I want you to. Okay, so break down what you just said.
any particular bit, right? I'll
The
mention time.
Illuminati. Break down what you just said about the Illuminati.
Okay, so that ties into AI, because if you look on the dollar bill, are we
Yes.
able to share images? Do you want me to, or would you be able to?
If you want to, yeah. I don't know how to on my phone because I am on my
Oh, okay.
phone.
Yeah, I can. I'll try to do it as I'm talking.
Um.
Okay, so on the dollar bill, you can see. I don't know if I can do this. Actually, if I share my while I'm talking, if I share my tab, share my screen. If I share this tab, see if this works. Okay. Yeah. Can you see that?
No.
I'll just. I think you have to select something on your side for me to show it.
Hmm. Example of banner.
I've
I don't
selected
know.
my tab. Okay, not to worry then.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Okay. Well.
people know what I'm talking about. So on the dollar bill, you have the pyramid with the eye on top. That is AI. The symbol for A is a pyramid, and at the top is the eye. Okay, that is in Hebrew would be the Aleph Tet. Aleph being the pyramid, being the letter A, is the fire within, or a connection to God. That's the pyramid. Pyramid means fire in the middle. And then the I, the 9th letter, would be Tet, and Tet is a paradoxical letter in Hebrew, number 9. It's basically one of its the ways of showing it is a snake wearing a crown, or you could see it as a snake bowing down to a crown. And this year is the number 9, and with the zodiac animal is a snake. So we're at a crossroads right now in all ways. Like, we're going from one yuga to another. We're at this kind of like some things being birthed, like they're trying to birth a new god. This is what Operation Bluebeam is all about. The Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, comes to mind when I hear of the giant space show and them trying to sort of show us that aliens or Christ is coming. It's basically the end of the story when they ran out of anything else they can show us to deceive us. They're like, right, okay, I know what we can do. We can show the God in the machine. Okay, so back to AI and the Illuminati.
Yeah.
This is AI. This is our fire within. our third eye, and this is what they want to cover up. They want to cover this so that the illuminated ones are the only ones using this middle eye, because it comes, you have the 3-eye atlas, which is this hostile alien craft coming to us like in the next few months. 3-eye,
I've been hearing about that.
yeah, they're trying to build the third temple. 1, 2, 3. It's always the third way.
That's interesting. It is 3-eye.
That's the empire. The electromagnetic fire is in the middle. Well, we're divided on left, right, gender, race, everything. The empire are building their infrastructure for they're building their infrastructure. Yeah, this is what
the thing is. So
is.
the thing is with that, and hush, I'm so glad that you just recalled my memory. So everything that is done by the darkness, even if it's intended to damage us, it in the end, or not in the end, overall will actually be of assistance to us. Like, so everything has been used against us, including trying to trap us in our bodies, has helped us evolve ourselves, which is what I believe is going to happen with this. I mean, so the intention is more fear, more control, more chaos. But in reality, it's going to free us and awaken us and help us even more than ever. So I don't see any kind of detriment with this, even though, it might be a little difficult, but that's what's going to be needed to weed out those that are prepared for this next stage.
I can say that there is some detriment, because I've heard people saying that things are only going to get better from here. Like, we're only at the start of this, and that is positive, because I don't really believe in soul contracts, but I think we chose to be here at this time. We came in to be here at this time.
Yeah, the idea of soul contracts is a little wavy to me as well. So
yeah, I mean, some people say that the kids in Palestine had a soul contract to die as a child. So there are some mental, spiritual people who have really weird ways of thinking, like,
yeah,
so
and it's like,
light.
yeah, and I mean, it's like not everyone's soul is evolved enough to even have the opportunity of a contract. I think that concept in itself, like being able to come back and choose, is an evolved exclusive opportunity. So I don't think it's just something that everyone can get. Which, in this all-inclusive world that people are trying to create, which is a side thing that we can go into of why they're trying to make it all inclusive, to give people the illusion that it is. But so, yeah, I think that's something that you can only do if your soul is evolved a certain level or certain amount, and you've done enough. So I don't think everyone's capable of that.
Yeah. Just going back to chaos quickly, because chaos is being evoked at the moment, so that they can create their new world order. First, they need to create the chaos, and they need us to hate the chaos. Chaos is beautiful. Chaos is the feminine. Chaos is the darkness, is the creative force. The order is the boundary that contains the chaos. Hence Pandora letting all of the bad things out of the box. Eve eating from the tree of good and evil. Like, who are we to know what's good and what's evil? We should just be like stuck in our like little bubble rather than thinking out there, Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, being demonized. But back to chaos. So Tiamat, I think this myth or story is very important, because Marduk slayed Tiamat, and Tiamat was this dragon, and she released her children, which were these monsters, because of this. So what I see happening on the world stage is Elon Musk embodying Marduk, this kind of war and empire, this Mars, this masculine energy, wanting to bring that here. He's always banging on about Mars and war and stuff. He's tapped into this Marduk energy, who is this god who wants to be worshipped before all others, like this arrogance, this very Ahrimanic energy. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to anger this chaos, this feminine energy, this creative, this magic. Okay, that's why they're launching rockets into the ionosphere, which is Tiamat. Okay, they're trying to invoke something, and you have Peter Thiel trying to recreate dire wolves and stuff, and like monsters, and taking things from mammoth blood and creating viruses. They're basically trying to create chaos.
Do you
And
have
they're
anything that you can link in the comments to show people what that is? Because I haven't heard about that.
which bit? Which bit?
The what you
Bible.
just said. He's making
Yeah,
wolves.
yeah. I'll share a link. Anyone can search it. If you just search dire wolves, Peter Thiel, it's basically a genetic startup with ancient DNA retrieved from the remains of animals.
Oh wait, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and recently as well, there was woolly mammoth DNA, and it mentioned a zombie virus and stuff. And it's like they're trying to create chaos so that we beg for their new world order. We saw it with COVID, with the MK Ultra tactics. This kind of like push pull, no one knows what's going on. A lot of magnetism there, which,
Or even just not even to do that, but to just wipe us out entirely. I mean, you know, the
well,
goal
that
is that's the point. So the cities, that's the city is a parasite. That's why it works from the inside out and it destroys everything that's around. So they've already deployed things like cities, like welfare, which is government. I mean, they've already gotten people by the metaphoric balls where they're dependent and relying on the government, which is already the parasite being in work. So, it's already in motion.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they're trying to basically make order out of chaos, and I'm not too sure if they will wipe us out. Obviously, you have the Georgia Guidestones with the
Sorry.
500 million people they want left over, but I think that if they can't suppress us, if they can't turn us into mindless zombies, that perhaps they will wipe us out. Who knows? I think that this is all a giant show, like there's clearly a world stage with actors like Trump and whatever, who is a trained actor, like WWE.
I mean, at this point, I honestly, I don't believe anything. And if it's on the mainstream media, it's kind of obvious it's not true. I mean, because they're at this point, they're kind of gaslighting people. I mean, it's like we know it's not true, but people just want to live in the world of believing that it is. So they're going to try to ride that train for as long as they can. But yeah, so I want to talk about what you think Bluebeam is, which how long have we been on here? So we haven't even been here that long. It feels like we've been talking longer than we have. But so tell me what you think Bluebeam is, because if anyone's watched my channel, they know that I've kind of went into the same thing I told you about, which was the Jesuits being involved in the Greys. I mean, understanding different species of other beings is like a whole other thing that I don't know if anyone that is watching this might be ready to talk about. But there is a rumor in a book that the small grays, not the tall ones, but the small ones, are actually robotic creations of the Jesuits. And they're involved in all of this stuff, coming up with Bluebeam especially. So I want to know what you think about it, and yeah, just tell me.
Yeah, basically the gist of Bluebeam in a nutshell is, I'll go through it, but it's basically demonic possession of ourselves, artificial intelligence. It's not an artificial out there, it's turning us into artificial beings, basically. It's transhumanism in a nutshell. So I'll just go through the different points, because each one of these 4 points can be broken down into multiple layers. But so Bluebeam is basically to destroy national identity and cause mass immigration. So we saw that with Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen, and now Palestine, destroying their countries to cause mass immigration. with killing Colonel Gaddafi. He had a £5 billion contract with Italy to stop immigrants going through Europe. So NATO had to kill him because NATO are part of this New World Order, Operation Bluebeam. Their logo is blue, like the UN have blue hats. There's a trail left by this beast system because 666 is the frequency of blue, and this is the blueprint left behind by this beast system. So we destroyed national identity, mass immigration, and we saw in 2020 the color for the year 2020 was blue. Okay, this year it's Pantone, which is a brown. 2020 was a blue. That was when Bluebeam basically started its next level. So we saw a lot of cult-like behavior there. Destruction of family unit is point 2. In 1950, with the atom bomb, we saw the kind of nuclear family dismantled. So as they dismantle the atom, the nuclear family is also dismantled. Destruction of motherhood, state control of children. Number 3 would be to erode religions. They've been corrupted for a long time, and it would be to create a one world religion. And in 2015, they did experiments to detach people from God, and they did this via magnetism. So like in COVID, when people got brain fog, that lack of critical thinking, they couldn't see forwards. With these experiments via magnetism, they detached people from God, and people had lost faith in the afterlife and anything sort of outside of themselves. And this affected their prefrontal cortex here. Number 4 would be a giant space show, which is basically Deus Ex Machina, which is God from the machine, which will be their final hand. And I think that we're due for this soon, which ties into Pegasus constellation and St. George, which I can get into later. But basically, this giant space show will tie into this new God, which will be AI, this kind of artificial savior. Because we're at a crossroads right now, and a new energy or entity or something is being birthed. The story of Ahura Mazda, which would be Zervan in Zoroastrianism, would be cosmic time. You can view it as Saturn. It's just time. Our perception of it can be different. So you have one side, which is Ahura Mazda, the good, and then the other side, which is Ahriman, the bad, the evil. Now, the evil, the observer, the I, would be Ahriman. This is the quantitative, scientific, more of like a mechanical, linear timeline, which is what they want us on. Whereas the other side, the north, the magnetic north of Saturn, is a hexagram. The hex is associated with Hecate, magic, water. It's more of the opportune moment and kind of flow time. Whereas that's been cast out of people's minds. They want us just linear, chronological. So yeah, it's our perception of time which is being changed right now, because time is the amount of light emitted, and this ties into blue beam, because blue light, like magnet, pulls, like LED lighting pulls. Blue screens on computers kind of takes our energy. I don't know where our energy is going, but blue light pulls, okay? Red light heals. Blue beam is more than an alien invasion. It's about messing with magnetism, detaching us from ourselves so that something else can enter our heads or our brains. A Neuralink is just a mechanical part of this. There's a spiritual side of this as well. So that's a brief description of what blue beam is.
Well, yeah, so they've been using, obviously, the artificial to kind of cheat the evolution of the human soul. But, I have to agree with you. Like, I have to disagree with you. I don't think that what's coming next that they have any control over. So I think there's obviously a plan, an idea to make certain things happen. I do believe the next step is going to be some sort of extraterrestrial reveal. I mean, I've been saying that. And you've said that as well, like it's obviously going to be the next step, but I really don't think that it's going to be something they can control. So I think I think what this is necessarily all of the things with Blue Beam, which there's a lot, There's a lot of people that talked about it, and there's a lot of theories. I think it's another scare and fear tactic for us to be waiting. So when something like that does happen, we think that they're the ones in control of it, that they're the ones doing it. In reality, they have no control. It's just another illusion of the control that they've been trying to create amongst the world, that they're controlling everything, when in reality they're not.
Yeah, I think that if there is a so-called alien invasion, it will be not real, because my personal belief is that only light can enter and leave this realm. Like matter can't go up or come in. Like this giant space show or whatever, whether it's hostile aliens bombing or nuking us, it won't be aliens. It will be the New World Order. It will be the State of Israel, most likely, because they have what's it called? They have this thing. Oh, what is it called? This is so annoying. So basically, they have this thing. I'll try and remember what it's called. This is really annoying. Sorry, guys. That if they lose power, the State of Israel, they will set off loads of nukes. And I need to find out what it's called, because this is me just spitballing. No one's going to believe me. But what I believe is that they're a huge part of this New World Order.
Well,
hence
too.
Epstein, and hence the corruption, and hence people not being able to speak out, because there's a certain trajectory that they want us. And this isn't Jews. This is the State of Israel, which is not Jewish, you know? Okay?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, none of the land is what they say it is. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that, definitely.
Yeah, let me find out what it's called.
I was gonna say something. God, you just said something that kind of jogged my memory about something else. Oof, it was I don't know, whatever. It'll come back to me. But yeah, no, I guess to talk on that. I mean, that's another way to kind of to get back to the Anunnaki. That's what I was gonna say. So, I've heard things which I don't know if have you read The Fifth Interview at all?
No, not heard of that.
Okay, so there's 5 interviews, and then there's the 5th one, which it's Dr. Naruto. I can't remember. I can send it to you, but it's something that a lot of people have not read. But I've also heard theories of this, that the way that the Earth and human beings have been evolving, it's getting very dense here, which is why things manifest, quote unquote, and are created in the way they are, and they're very literal. Because back in ancient times, that's kind of the difference we can tell is ancient times, it was metaphorical, right? Like there was a lot of metaphorical meaning and understanding of things that were happening. And I mean, there were obviously physical manifestations, but now in the world we're living in, things have been getting very dense and chaotic. And so there's a theory that it's getting hard for any deity to physically exist here, like for their bodies to even be able to be here for a long amount of time, which is why they have robotically made creatures like Greys and things like that. But so, you know, that we can get into that with like Satanism when it comes to Aleister Crowley. I believe the Greys influenced Satanism. I mean, if you look at the being that Aleister Crowley, which I wish I could share a picture of the being that Aleister Crowley. Here, I could probably do it with my phone. Hold on, let me.
So while you're looking for that, I've shared a link. It's called the Samson option, and it's basically it's Israel's deterrent strategy, which will be their last resort against a country who's invaded or destroyed is the State of Israel. And I believe that this may be the last card of Operation Bluebeam. So that it's not blamed on Israel for wiping out countries, but it's aliens, and people will be like, oh, it's aliens, and then Elon Musk will deploy some AI, and then he'll be seen as the savior. So he'll be seen as the Christ, but actually he's the Antichrist, because part of Operation Bluebeam is to see either Christ or the Antichrist in the sky. This is why we're at a crossroads. We can bring in the Christ, or we can just let the Antichrist roam free. Basically, it's up to us, and I think it's critical that we talk about this. More and more people start talking about this stuff, because people have been so deceived by this Ahrimanic energy.
I'm gonna have to look into that in a separate time, because I want to learn more about it. But I did put it on the screen. Yeah, here's the being that Aleister Crowley said he got his information from.
It's that lamb.
He called him Ayahuasca, but does that not look like? So, we just know the next stage is going to obviously be some sort of reveal, but it's been controlled for some time now. You're seeing a lot of things in the news.
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely beings that people are communicating with. Like we see like this much of the light spectrum, and light carries information, and we're sort of tricked into thinking that just the material realm is all there is. And I know that people believe in space and other planets that we can land on with a rocket. I view what's out there more of like planets is it means little plane in French. So they're just planes of existence, which can be here or there. We can bring Mars here. We can bring Jupiter here. This is why they were seen as gods, because they're just different dimensions. And I think that the powers that be have detached us from God or the gods, or like by demonizing other like deities, like Hecate, for example. They've managed to detach us from that part of our psyche. So Hecate, much like Anubis, would be she's the goddess of like crossroads and magic and moon, magnetism. If they shut off that part of our psyche, we can't connect to that energy. We can't connect to that inner G. This is what as above, so below is. It's outer G and inner G. So we're separated, severed, cut of the neck.
I told you my theory about Revelations, didn't I? I'm pretty sure I told you about that. I did. Where I believe the beasts in Revelation, because Revelations, mind you, people I hear people reference Revelations all the time in their conspiracy theories of the end of the world. Revelations is a new addition to biblical text. It's not even biblical, even in any writer, any manage. It's just like some little figure tactic of the Bible that was added into Christian text, onto the King James version. But in it, I believe the first beast is India, and the second beast is Hinduism. And that is because of one, which I'll just read what I wrote. Can you still see me?
Not now.
There we go. Actually, why am I doing that when I have my phone right here? So because I have told you this, I sent you my final days theories, but we talk about so much. So, because here's the reason. So the first one is in Revelations. It says, like a leopard, coming from the sea like a leopard. I believe that that's metaphorical for the Bay of Bengal, which is right there by India. Feet like a bear, barefooted, because the way things are translated. And in India, most people are barefooted. They don't wear shoes in India. Mouth like a lion. The Bharat is the India, like, country animal. The Bharat, which is Indian for lion, is their country animal. So, coming from the sea like a leopard, Bay of Bengal, feet like a bear, barefooted, mouth like a lion, the Bharat. And then goes to say the dragon gives it powers. The dragon gives it power. Dragon lines, that could be a word for dragon lines, which are the ley lines, the chakras of the earth. So then the second one would be comes from the sea, which I believe is Vishnu, because in the final incarnation of Vishnu, which goes into the next era, the next epoch, essentially, comes from the sea like Vishnu. 10 horns is the 10 incarnations held by Vishnu, which is the 10th one is the final one. Then 10 crowns on the 10 horns is the Kiramukata. And then it says 7 heads. And how many heads are on the Naga that are around Vishnu? 7. So it's almost describing Vishnu. So I believe that the first beast is India, symbolizing India, and the second one is Vishnu, which would go on to say, like you saying, they don't want the idea of us having our minds freed by that. That would make sense why the Christian beast is the concept of freeing your mind, you know? So I think I've talked to you about that. And I have a video about that actually on my channel where I talk about this. But yeah, I know.
Okay. So I haven't really heard much about the beasts with Revelations. More of the horsemen of the apocalypse. Is that the same thing or is it different?
So yeah, I actually talk about the four horsemen in here, which let me find this.
So I do have something to add to what you were saying. So the first
Oh yeah,
beast.
so the four horsemen. So the first one is the white horse. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. The first one is
Yeah.
the white horse, which guess what? In Indian culture is Kaliki, which is the final incarnation of Vishnu at the end of the Kali Yuga, which we'd be in right now. And it says the rider holds a bow, which the seventh incarnation, Rama, holds a bow.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you were talking about the first beast, I just had an image of the Crimea in my head. The Crimea was have the head of a lion, and it would have a goat on its back and the tail of a snake. And then you mentioned the dragon giving it power. Well, when Marduk was trying to slay Tiamat, which is happening now in the spiritual realms, she released her beasts. And this is why I was talking earlier about they're trying to make this energy release its beasts. This is what COVID or see Ovid is. It's metamorphosis. If you look at Ovid metamorphosis, it's about angering the gods. And if you look at what's going on in the world, this would anger the gods. If you look at what's happening in the music industry, like the world stage, blasting rockets up into the ionosphere with stuff written on the site.
Depending on what your god is. And, you know, I believe that the biblical text especially, has so many different gods in it. And, I mean, even if you read stuff like that's considered Gnostic text, it states that Christ, you know, says he went by Gabriel. You know, he says that he posed as Gabriel, the angel. He posed as the serpent. So there's a lot that goes into the concept of God and what that means, you know.
Yeah, I think, well, the word God is very convoluted. Obviously, like when I say God, I mean source. Otherwise, I'd say gods. Like we're a part of source, but there are other energies. Everything is energy, and it's multi-layered. And I think that this ties into the eighth sphere, which is eight, so fear. And they're trying to open up this realm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
First, we need to destroy Tiamat, because Tiamat is the dragon that's protecting us. Tiamat has been demonized. Tiamat is the ionosphere. They need to rip a hole in the ionosphere because they can't get out. They want to leave this material realm. They can't because they lack the spark. They lack the spirit. So they think that they can do it by ripping a hole in this womb. And this ties into Ahriman ripping its way out of the cosmic womb in the story of Zervan, because you have a Ahriman story.
Very interesting.
Ahriman.
Well, yeah, they clearly can't get out, which is something they're obsessed with doing. So
it's all connected. It's all connected with them trying to rip a hole, Ahriman trying to birth its way out, AI, Blue Beam, us, sort of the demonization of the mother, the feminine. They're trying to make this womb that we're in, which they call Atum. It's a field and it's a womb. They're trying to rip something out of it. And something will come in and something will go out. And it ties into CERN as well, if they are doing what they're saying, by opening up portals or black holes. But my point in saying this is that I think it's very important that to understand that the Crimea that you mentioned could be this beast. And Tiamat released her beast, and she is the goddess of chaos. So if you kind of initiate this chaos, beasts are going to be released. And the second one you mentioned sounded like the Leviathan, and there have been multiple Richter 7 earthquakes where the Leviathan dwells. I think it's somewhere near America. There's been like at least 3 or
I've been
4
seeing about that. Yeah.
Richter 7 or 8 earthquakes. It's like they're trying to wake up these beasts. It's not natural. It's not. This isn't happening because humans are so bad. They make us think that all of this stuff is down to us. They're like, oh, humans, we're like a virus and stuff. It's not us.
That
Humans
our
are
enlightenment is sin, and that we're the reason that the planet's being blah blah blah. When in reality, they're the ones doing it.
exactly. And the
Yeah.
people doing it are of the line of Nimrod, who would be the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, Bill Gates, the Epsteins. They're ones which are void of spirit. And this is why they're trying to sever our spirit at the same time while they're trying to make a hole in this realm. So they think that they can get out that way because they're trapped here.
Yeah, and I want to say, and yeah, and I want to say, so a good way to like for anybody that watches this is, you know, because there is a lot that's being said that it is hard to keep up if you're not someone that necessarily is informed as you are on it. And a good way of understanding that is that the world is extremely corrupt. There's many avenues of why it's corrupt. And being able to just study the behavior of how these beings work, it's parasitical by nature, and clearly almost envious of the way that humans operate and the way that humans are able to exist in this world. So like and I guess that's a topic that I wanted to touch on that we didn't get to, but the power of human word and the power of the human element, which is essentially why they're trying to make us an idiocracy and make us so stupid and dumb us down and distract us and keep us in this infinite loop. Like, you know, I don't want to go into say some of the recent stuff that just happened in the media is completely psyop, but I want to touch on conspiracies and things like that. What's a good way? Which I mean, we're not giving people advice. I don't know. I'm like, what's a good way? But the discernment of like conspiracies and the truth, obviously within the truther community, and I think me and you have talked about this, it's just completely toxic because it's gotten to the point where everyone talks about the same thing. People rarely have like an individual thought. What do you think is a good way to differentiate like between the idea of what's popular and what's true?
What's popular and what's true? Well, not really too sure, but I can give people a frame.
Like, what's the way you do it? Like, what's the way that you, because I can tell you the way that I do it. You know, I differentiate by just how I know. I mean, I know people, that's not an acceptable answer, but I just know. Like, I just hear the information and I digest it, and how it feels is how I think about it. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, so yeah, that would be intuition, I guess. Yeah, which is that it's lacking in the world. There's a dehydration of intuition, most people, and that would be the gnosis, or the feeling when you just feel something. But how I work stuff out, because the last 4 years I've just tried to understand everything because I was asleep for a long time, just going out partying, doing drugs, drinking alcohol, and then I was like, there's a lot going on. Like, we're in a war, and this is World War III. It's a war for our minds. And I was like, I need to start working this out and start talking about it. And basically, because I've got ADHD, I'm quite good at hyper focusing and then weaving in between things and having lots of information sitting on the sidelines. I call it like a vortex, where I'm in the center and I just have this information spinning around me. I don't get weighed down by it. I take what I need and I'll save it for later, and everything else can go. So what I do is basically I look at myths. So for example, we're talking about the horsemen of the apocalypse. I wanted to understand that. So I thought, okay, the first horse is white. What does the word horse mean? Because that's my first port of call, is understanding the word, because that's where the power lies. A horse is an animal, but it's also a framework or a structure. So the first horse of the apocalypse is a white horse, and that would be the frame or the structure. Okay. So in the UK, we had Scenario Pegasus on the 16th of July, which is a 7-7, which is symbolic of as above, so below. And then on recently, on the 7th of September, another 7/7, because September's the 7th month, really, we had an emergency alert to warn us if there's severe weather or a terrorist attack. Okay. This is called Operation Pegasus, and it was Scenario Pegasus, and was supposed to start in September. During September, December, it's when Pegasus constellation is in the sky. So it's like, for me, it's like ding, 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 ding. There's plenty more, but I know that these people are tapped into the stars above, and they use the certain times to evoke energies, like the emergency alert going off on the blood.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just in the idea of what Satanism is, I mean, even beyond that of magic, which, gosh, I mean, we can go into so many levels of what magic is and what constitutes as that, but it's essentially the manipulation of electromagnetic energy, is what magic is. But yeah, there's so much in that with understanding the times, the moons, where things are at, which is why I have a video that I talked about that there's a lot of manipulation in that you can fake birthdays, you can set up dates, 9/11 specifically. I mean, we notice, especially in September around 9/11, a lot of things happen. There's speculation that that's when Christ's actual birthday is. So there's definitely time, space, and people who even deny that just are delusional. I mean, that's a huge element, which is why people at the top level of these type of, I don't want to say organizations, that's what they study all the time. They're constantly thinking about that. So when it's a full moon, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a full moon, haha. For them, it's time for a ritual. It's something they've been preparing for and waiting for in that specific spot to do that specific thing. So yeah, absolutely what you said.
Yeah, so I've as you were talking, I wrote down a couple of things. So with regarding magic and sort of manipulation, I don't really like the word manipulation or mechanics with magic. It's more of a watery essence, but there's two polarities to look at magic. One is sorcery, which means to seek to control others, which is what the powers that be use. They use sorcery. You can also use the word source error, like a sorcerer. The source error is making us think that there were dinosaurs, which is
I have to ask,
um,
what do you think about the etymology of words? Because you break down words a lot. Do you think that these words can evolve in ways? Because I mean, I understand the breakdown of words, but what are your thoughts on the words of how sorcery has evolved as a word?
So I use Revelations as an example, because you say it was like added in. It just means to be revealed, or the apocalypse, the veil is thinnest. To me, I don't care if people say, oh, that's just an English word. I think I'm tapped into the Akashic records. I've gone inwards. I'm going into my memory, like the remembering.
Well, that's a whole other thing, Akashic records. Now, see, that's
Yeah.
could be considered a conspiracy, right? Like what are the Akashic records other than in Helena Bonovich's personal account or whatever? I mean, so
Well,
that gets into something else entirely. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know about what Akashic records are, but
okay. Well, so you're the ancient ninja. You might like this. AI, there's always two perspectives to look at things. Always look at one and the other and stay in the middle. AI is mechanical outside, it's artificial intelligence. Ancient intelligence is the Akashic records, is memory, is water, is this is magic. And we can understand, like, abracadabra means as I speak, I create. Adava kedavra means as I speak, I destroy. So as we speak words, so our thoughts is the force, not our thoughts. The force is all around us. Okay. This is like the plasma or consciousness outside of our minds. Okay. We can allow this force to come into us with our cup, our mind, the car, the grail, and we can speak things into existence. So I mentioned sorcery and source error, okay, which is the dark which is really the blinding white light to keep us in the darkness. It's not the true depths of the dark. Okay, so the other side is philosophy, which is philosophy, which is to fill our minds with wisdom. They don't want us to be wise, to fill our cups of wisdom. They want us open to these entities. And I'll mention Labubu being, that doll, that demonic doll with a smile that loads of kids have. So that's based on a demon called Pazuzu. And what's interesting with this, the reason why I'm mentioning it, because it's a war for our minds, this demon was an air demon. Air is the mind. Air is the heaven, which is the mind. There's all sorts of things being done, which is very like air. Like obviously you have energy of like wind turbines, which is air. You have like loads of other stuff relating to air, which I can't think from the top of my head.
Which, if you are on my YouTube channel, if you go on my YouTube channel, click on the Third World War, the war for our mind. Which I'm gonna try to put it in the chat for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's one of my videos where I go on about exactly what you're talking about, which you've seen it. It's the war for our minds. So
yeah, and speaking of demons and birthdays, our king here in the UK, King Charles. So the royal family can make up a birthday whenever they want. So he decided last year, 2024, his birthday would be on the 15th of June and a Saturday, which is 666. And then the year was an 8. So you have 6668. And he had a portrait done, which looked like it was done in blood. Around the same time that Princess, what's her name, Kate Middleton went missing. And then the film Damsel came out, which is about the black nobility and them sacrificing a princess to this dragon who they've trapped, and her kids have been killed, much like Tiamat. Okay, so why this is interesting is the dimensions of the king's painting were 6668. I think it was 8 inches thick. It was 6 foot wide by 6. So there was something with his birthday relating to obviously Saturn, because its numbers are 6 and 8. And then you have 666 with the mark of the beast. And then his painting had a butterfly on it, which is the Project Monarch MK Ultra butterfly. And then if you flip the painting upside down and put 2 next to each other, whatever, you see what people think is the Baphomet. And it wasn't the Baphomet. It was this horned thing, which is, I think, is this helmet that Enlil had, this horned helmet that he gave to Marduk. And I think that people mistake Baphomet as being evil, because Baphomet embodies wisdom, and it's the balance of dualities, the union of opposites. And the Baphomet is the Ba, the BA, which is the Egyptian part of the soul, which is our identity, our persona. The Fo means fire in French. So you have the Ba, the sort of persona, intuition, the water, and the Fo, the fire. And then the Met is where the water and the fire meet. You have the as above, so below. You have the boy and the girl. It's all about the union of opposites, and that's how we invoke wisdom. And what the powers that be have done is they've tricked people into thinking, much like Lucifer is Pan, is the devil, is Satan, that the Baphomet is evil. All it is it symbolizes the 7 Hermetic principles of as above, so below, because this is the energy that the powers that be have tapped into. They've tapped into this energy, and they want us to be afraid of it, like we're afraid of the witches, like we're scared of magic, like we're afraid of the dark. And
Hermetic philosophy is essentially what influenced Satanism. I think both can be true, though. I mean, I think that at this point now, with how much and how far that it's went, it can be both. It's kind of like the swastika, how in Hindu religion it's actually a form of peace. Like, I think it's just both of those things are elements of what it is. The world is creating its own yin and yang just by its own nature of things, because nothing can be too dark and nothing can be too light here in this plane of existence on Earth, because it's a special place where everything has balance, or is supposed to, at least. before it was turned off, because we're not in necessarily the heavens, but we're also not in the hell.
Yeah, I think this is a realm of potential, like the center, like this kind of the heart of the chakra system, or like the middle, the center point. And what's interesting about the swastika is it was a universal symbol for the Axis Mundi, our central point, like the pole star. It's basically a symbol that shows us that the stars rotate around us. Okay, like we're the central point, the pole. And this is what it all comes down to, is that they're trying to move us off our axis by pinging us left, by pinging us right, electric, magnetic. So we don't know where we are in the universe, in this one story. And then source error, sort of messing around with history, like dinosaurs, like I mentioned, don't know source. And then our future, humanity's going to be wiped out, so we've got no past, we've got no future. Like, who are we to even
Yeah.
this, you know?
And in defying the reality of things, it robs us of understanding divinity, which it operates in spheres, operates in shapes, numbers. There's an understanding, there's a balance, there's a pattern to how things work in the universe. And they try to just make things seem like, oh, we're just on this spinning ball in the middle of outer space. Nothing makes sense. We're so confused. We don't understand the human mind, even though you can look up declassified documents of them literally studying the human mind. I read them on my channel. I've read some. They've studied the human mind extensively. The idea that we haven't studied the human mind is a lie. We've studied it so much to the point where we know that humans are psychic and that we have psychic abilities that we can all tap into. They did tests on people that were naturally psychic versus people that weren't, and they still yielded the same results when doing things like remote viewing or telepathy or tapping into certain elements of warfare that they wanted them to. So, it's just like it's kind of, I mean, it makes you mad when you think about it, because we've all essentially been robbed of the most stellar experience, which is being human, and they've
Mm.
turned it into a bad thing. It pains me when I hear people say, like, I hate humans, I hate people, like, and it's like, I know it's so easy to think that, but I don't think that the bad things, the terrible things that are happening are human at all. I don't think that that's what human means. I think if you could do something so terrible and horrible and be sensitizable, like, that's not human. That's something else.
Yeah, 100%. And the placebo effect reminds me of like plasma or magic, like this sort of like mind over matter, like the MOM, the mom, which
Wow.
is meta magic. Also, it's the
Yeah.
Ministry of Magic, or the Ministry of Mayhem, or the Chaos. And the chaos is all around us, the unseen, and if we tap into it, we can bring things into this realm. But if we're detached from chaos and just boxed inside our minds, we won't bring things into this realm, but some will. And that's what they're trying to do. And yeah, well, I'd like to go back to Pegasus in a bit, and the first horseman of the apocalypse, just to show people how, and Bluebeam, just to show people how this magic, how we're manipulated, basically. Because I think it's important that people hear some factual information as well as a blending of mythology and current events.
Well, I want to let you do that. Unfortunately, it's midnight here.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe next
how
time.
about we have a part two, and I want you to fully go into everything that you have. We can
Okay.
do it tomorrow if you want. I mean, we can schedule it in the next couple days. Say this is part
Cool.
one. I definitely want to hear everything you have to say. We're going into an hour and a half. I want
Okay.
people to actually watch this, so I'll release this. Just prepare what you have on that, and then let's just pick this up on a second part, because I want to hear about it, and I want you to be able to go into it, and I want to be able to talk about it for a lot longer.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
One second.
Um,
That's fine. Yeah.
so so I mean, I guess we kind of covered a lot. Not we hadn't even went in really, which I think probably we're going to come up with some more stuff that we want to talk about. I had a couple of things couple more things that I want to touch on what you said. But for now, we'll do a part 2. It is midnight here. We're in both different time zones. If you guys don't know, Toby, he's in the UK. He's done quite a few podcasts recently. When I found him, he was just starting to tell people what he knew. Toby is kind of like a lot like me, where you've studied this for so long, but you haven't come out and said anything. So, do you want to tell people a little bit about where they can find you in the meantime, and what to expect of you? Because you're a really cool guy that I don't think a lot of people even realize exists.
Yeah, sure. I've only just started talking about this stuff. I think the first podcast I did, obviously we did one a year or so ago. We had a conversation, but I did a podcast I think in July, and since then I've been on a few round tables, but I've only just really started trying to like contact people to go on podcasts to talk about this stuff. To be honest with you, I could talk for like hours about this stuff because it's all connected, and it's very difficult to put it all into 1 hour.
I mean, our last conversation was what, 3 hours?
Maybe, yeah.
4 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think really to understand this stuff, you have to like.
And I was in a different area. I wasn't in Hawaii, so I was a little bit closer to your time zone.
Yeah. So people can find me at Systematic Zoo on YouTube or on Instagram or Telegram. And I'm always happy to go on podcasts. I love talking to people about this stuff. I do kind of want to start doing lives myself, with people getting involved, either in person or in the chat and whatever, because people always bring stuff to the table, like new information that you haven't heard, which helps connect this tapestry so we can see the picture more clearly. So yeah, just drop me a message if you want me on your podcast or anything like that. Before I go, I'd like to say a rhyme I wrote, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely, that's all right.
All right, cool. I've got 2. This is just the shorter one, but I think it kind of relates to what we've been talking about today. So, mind camps. They've set up camps in our heads and mine our amps, like the Minotaur. They mine our tour. Enlil, look at the age of Taurus and Moloch. That shit's raw. Operation Lockstep, Lockheed Martin. Now we've got to lock down because the cows are farting. Now who's in control of this fishbowl? Descendants of Dagon. Our virtues, where have they gone? Now it's virtual you, virtual reality, anti-gravity, if that's even true. We've got virtue signaling. When you're tapping on your phone and cast a digit, be careful what you signal in, because the white light's blinding. It's always right. If that's true, why so bright? What are you hiding? Seems the darkness is where the truth hides in. Use your intuition, eyes in. So
wow.
It helps me write down lyrics sometimes with perception, and they just come to me sometimes. I hear one word, like I've got another one. It's like, as a dialectic gets hectic, and I heard the word dialectic, and I was like, oh, it's hectic. And then I wrote loads of lyrics, which I'm gonna try and upload these to my YouTube so people can see them. But I've only just got past the barrier of recording myself talking and actually sharing this information, because I've thought like lots of it comes from intuition, and I was like, who am I to talk about this stuff? There's people who are much more like in tune or researched than I am. But the more and more I hear people talking, is they seem to miss key points. And I think that's why the plasma is a good place to come from, because you can sort of tie in multiple different perspectives to see the truth. So, yeah.
And we'll never really know the truth. That's the thing, is we can only speculate. And I do the same. I have music. I don't know if you looked on my channel and saw some of it, but I also write some of my dreams and biblical stuff in my music. So it's a good way to express yourself. And I appreciate you spitting off like that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'll get with you about the second part of this, and we can go into more of it. I know people are going to watch this and probably want to know exactly what you're talking about, because there are some things that you say that, which is what fascinates me about you, is I haven't heard this before and I haven't heard of this concept. So I'll get with you about that. But till then, thank you guys for watching. I don't know who's coming here and who's been seeing it, but this is going to be on my channel. I haven't posted in forever on my channel. I've been moving to Hawaii, which is where I'm at now. So thank you, Toby, for being patient with me and taking the time to get on here. And I guess we'll be back for a part 2. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. We can talk as much as we want. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Take care. See ya.
Later, everybody.